Everyone. I wanted to pop in and talk about two things. First, my study group for 2025 is open for registration. So this starts the 1st of February and goes to the end of the year. Uh, Actually, no, we'll start the 1st of February and go to the end of January of 2026. So if you're interested in that, contact me over at my website on the contact form and we'll see if it's a fit. And depending on the pool of people I get, that's really going to determine where we go with things. My apprentices from last year will I think most everybody, not everybody from that program is going to be in this program for 2025 as well. So there's a lot of intelligent voices in there, if that's something that you're interested in. We'll be looking at a variety of texts this year. I'll be studying the voices and ideas of other astrologers, some classical astrologers, and always having our standard natal chart practice, natal chart interpretation practice. We also love to have Psychopath Sunday, where we study somebody that's been naughty and break that down. And of course, our regular synastry classes. So if you're interested in that, contact me over at my website on the contact form and we'll see if it's a fit. I also want to talk about Venus and Mars being sesquiquadrate because Venus is in Pisces and Mars is in Cancer. So this is interesting because they're both in mild signs, they're in trine signs. And this is a good example of a hard aspect that can occur in trine signs. Sometimes we can see that with some of the I would say some of the weirder values. Biquintiles can occur in signs like that. Sometimes we can get that with quintiles. So when we have a hard aspect like a sesquiquadrate occurring in trine signs, it makes it easier to solve because by element we have an affinity. We have a lot that is in common, but there is something to solve. A hard aspect always represents some kind of problem or point of friction or contention, a lesson. Uh, because there's the goal, and then there's what we're prepared for, and then there's some story in there that describes the relationship between those two things, past and future, uh, where we are, where we want to be, night and day, all those things. Everything repeats. So it makes it easier to come to resolution when we do have those minor conflicts, that some of those aspects that can occur in trine signs, what those aspects describe. And with the sesquiquadrate, the way that we start out is our intention is good. These are 135-degree angles. Hey, Chris. These are 135-degree angles. And they are aspects that come after the square. So the semi-square, which is that first uh, real difficult division between source and self, or past and future. Then we have squares, which is that more difficult to solve division. This is what really can bring our attention to things, attention to problem, because we understand there's tension or friction here. We're having a lack of success. And so there's something to solve within ourselves. And then we come to the 135-degree angle, the sesquiquadrate, where we also have a difficulty here between past and future, a division between self and source. Because really the entire wheel and all of the aspects are showing the primary separation wound, the nature of it, and the kind of friction or tension it throws into our life and into our decisions. And all aspects are also representing type and quality of decision. So when we get to the sesquiquadrate, what's happening is our intention is good. We set out on our journey and we have an idea of where we're going. That's the goal. And we feel prepared. We're under the impression that we have all that we need in order to get there, in order to arrive, in order to have that success, to meet that goal. So we don't have the deep assumption of failure that we have with a square. With a sesquiquadrate, we are under the impression that it is going to take something to get there, but we have what it takes. And so we set out, but we set out with what we have. We set out towards that goal with the tools, the coping skills, the aim, the exact vision, and we just set out with what we have. And during the course of that journey, we don't notice, or we ignore, or sometimes we'll willfully resist the kind of knowledge or changes or updates that need to be made as we are in motion, as we are in pursuit of where it is that we're going. See, we do have a lot of what we need because, see, we're building on the square. We have made some progress here. We are starting out with a lot of the right stuff. But that won't be enough, because as we go along, reality happens. Children grow up. People change their minds. Bank accounts dwindle. Goals change. Different self-expressions will erupt. And none of that is successfully figured in. We aren't bending and flexing and rolling with the punches and allowing and updating as we're going along. And so when we get to the end, near the end, because it's a sesquiquadrate, when we get near the end, we start to realize that we aren't arriving with any or most of what we thought we were going to get there with. We aren't coming to the goal whole, and we aren't coming with all of the people, respect, good things, the gifts, the accolades that we thought that we were going to arrive with. Because as we are in pursuit of something with the sesquiquadrate, our willful neglect, our inability to change, our carpet sweeping, our explaining things away, it's shaving off the kind of people that should be in our mind when we're in pursuit of that goal, getting onto our bandwagon support. And the kind of support we're starting out with is dwindling. People are going to jump off our bandwagon. And so with the sesquiquadrate, the sad thing is it's just upon arrival. It's before we actually get there that we realize that we failed. So this is like running a marathon. We're putting all this energy into it, right? We start out well intended. But we don't take into account as we're going along the actual terrain, the competition, where we find ourselves at. All of these things are going to impact, I mean, where we happen to be running that race. There's all these external factors that happen as we are in pursuit, as we're in motion, as we're running that race. And so these things build up. They're cumulative with sesquiquadrates. There's the growing impact of our blind spot that doesn't reveal itself until we're almost there. This is like being feet from the finish line and realizing that you didn't take into account that you wore shoes that don't allow for rain. And if you take that one last step, instinctively you know you're going to slip and you're done for. So sesquiquadrates are interesting. If we don't look up, they're also something I liken them to being that behavior where we can get so caught up in like playing a video game, and your mom comes in and shakes you and tries to get you to do something. You're like, yeah, in a minute. We just become so wrapped up in it that soon we don't even get up to do anything. We just sit there and pee in a bottle so we can continue to play and drink Gatorade. It's sort of like a human stupidity centipede. And we don't understand that we are so caught up in the propulsion or the action, the pursuit of something. So we just don't look up. We don't notice. And these can also be where we're very insensitive. We could be insensitive with the sesquiquadrates. Because people will tug on our sleeve and like try to tell us or try to give us more information or tell us how they're feeling or what they need or what some external factors are. We just be like, you don't understand. You don't get it. This is what we're doing. I know better. There have to be sacrifices that are made, and we make the wrong sacrifices because we do not include others. Well, Venus and Mars are sesquiquadrate today. Somebody said, can you give us an example with particular planets? What time is it? Let me see how much time I have. Hold on. I got a class at 2. I've got a little bit of time here. All right, so Venus and Mars are the dance between passive and aggressive, the give and the take within us. And so all aspects, hello Violet. This is Violet, this is my granddaughter, but I have custody. Yes. She likes me better than her mother. They don't have the best composite chart. Ours is better. Yes. I also have Violet's 2 daughters, which are my daughters. So my granddaughter's daughters are my daughters. Yeah. My great granddaughters are my daughters. Yeah, that's weird around here. So aspects between Venus and Mars. There's some kind of friction or conflict between passive and aggressive forces. This is what creates that dynamic tension, that sexy vibe in sexual relationships, in romantic relationships. It comes from that polarity, that need to balance feminine and masculine forces. So the give and the take there, selfish and cooperative, right and left. So naturally, Venus and Mars have a spicy relationship because we either have them in opposition naturally on the wheel, Aries and Libra in opposition, or we have Aries and Taurus, um, semi-sextile, minor in conjunction thing. So we're like from different worlds. So we either have that really dynamic tension and even sometimes outright competition with the opposition, yeah, between Aries and Libra, Venus and Mars. And then we have that women are from Mars, men are from Venus thing with that in conjunct semi-sextile relationship with Venus naturally ruling Taurus and Aries, Mars being right next to that. They have nothing in common. Signs are planets that are right next to each other or in conjunct to each other. They share no element, they share no modality, they are alien to each other. And so, either which way you slice it, there is a difficulty in the give and the take or the balance that's built in to these masculine and feminine forces. And so when we have a sesquiquadrate, we're trying to get these this give and take within us, this passive and this aggression, this what I want and how I get it, what's the object of my desire, and then how do I act to get it. Sometimes these two things are way out of alignment, and then we can have problems because what I want and then the action I take may not be in agreement with each other. And this is where we tend to step on others' toes because we don't get the rhythm right. And we can be like kind of a bumbling idiot. We don't dance well. We're trying to get the rhythm here. We can naturally have the rhythm if we have really good natal aspects between Venus and Mars. Like say we have the trine or the sextile or the conjunction's also super sexy, although it does definitely pump up the volume of the libido or the selfishness, the pursuit that Mars can bring to Venus. It is, we're no shrinking violet with that one. But the naturally easy aspects just make it very easy to figure out how we can invite others to dance, how we can have easy success in romantic relationships, social relationships, anything that requires balance or give and take. We don't have a conflict within us. We don't have rebellion within us. We don't have competition within us. That's going to be a barrier to harmonizing or to cooperating. So the sesquiquadrate, we are very much wrestling, and you'll have to look in your chart. Is Mars or Venus in the sign where it's going to have easier success? Because Mars or Venus, whichever one is in the sign that it naturally is going to express easier, that's the force that is more in its healthy expression. And then whichever planet is in a sign that it doesn't do as well in, and sometimes you can get this, say the sesquiquadrate, you have this natally, and they could be in trine signs. Lucky if they're not, and they're in signs that they don't have a lot in common with. It could be a little easy, a little more difficult to solve this because they are out of step. That force within ourselves that's about give and take, that's about being turned on and then pursuit, that is misaligned. So we are either, if Mars is the bumbling idiot in our chart, that's the force within us that we are putting, that's out of alignment, that needs to be more fine-tuned to be in step with this passive, more forgiving, genteel force within us, acceptance. So when we have difficult aspects between Venus and Mars in our chart, we need to get really good at partner dancing, ballroom dancing, slow dancing, something. Ho, 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 salsa dancing. All of these are really, really good for having us have to develop the capacity to get in step and alignment and rhythm with another, with a partner. Horseback riding is also really good for this too. Management of horses is really good for learning how to do this because we are representing Mars, the predator, and we're working with prey. There aren't a lot of animals in most of our sphere, as common humans, that are actually prey. We typically choose to live with other predators, cats and dogs and birds, reptiles, things like that. So contact with and learning to vibe with and move with and appreciate, work with an animal, because we're the predator, is something that represents prey, is very helpful when it comes to having our body become in tune with something that is, typically we would wrestle with, we'd push it away, or it's gonna be harder for us to learn those things. It's not gonna be natural to us, but that's what helps us to solve the problem. We're naturally just kind of a bumbling fool, and we aren't so smooth, but we can become so. These difficult aspects between Venus and Mars, when we realize that we're stepping on our own toes, we're getting ahead of ourselves when it comes to the pursuit, or sometimes we're hanging too far behind and we're letting them get away. When we work on this, because these aren't actually the hardest aspects to work on, there's worse ones, really, there's worse problems to solve. Although the in conjunction between Venus and Mars is probably the most annoying one. I think that requires the most work because we're dealing with deeper self-esteem issues with that one and potential self-abandonment. Anyway, so we want to break through these problems that we have when it comes to securing the object of our desire, because it's that security. Venus represents a certain amount of sexual and social and physical security, and we're getting in the way of our own ability to pursue and cooperate in either sexual or romantic or social or friendship, even partnerships of all kinds. So with a sesquiquadrate, we operate in such a way that we're pursuing somebody, and in the course of that pursuit, we're not looking up and noticing that that person needs this. That person prefers this. We're trying to woo that person because we met them and we're like, yes, at the beginning of this pursuit, I've identified this person as loving steakhouses. And then we keep taking them to the steakhouse and we don't realize, because we're not watching, we're not looking, we're not actively observing the object of our desire, because we've already decided this is how I'm going to get them. We're not noticing that they're really not that impressed with the steak, and we're just carpet sweep that. Well, they grew up in a way where they don't understand the finer things in life, and we just don't get it until right at that end. We're like, I'm gonna score. Tonight's gonna be the night. I'm almost there. It's almost all right. And then that's when the truth comes out, and she turns to you and she's like, I'm really not in the mood. I mean, all this steak, I don't know. It's a lot. I think I need to lie down. And that's when you realize, that was a lot of money. That was a lot of time. That was a lot of effort. That was a lot of waste. Back to the drawing board. And that's what we do with sesquiquadrates, is that we fail before we even arrive at the goal. We haven't even officially failed, but we can see it coming up, and then we have to go back to the drawing board. And if we want what we want, we have to start again, but we have to remember that we have to look up from what we're doing. We have to observe, we have to actively change along the way, or else we are screwed. So that was probably more than you asked for, guys, but I got going. Anyway, that's what's going on today. So this gives us a chance to realign, or a chance to learn, a chance to get in step, because we realize how we're off course, or how we have set out, but we're almost there, but we can't really get there. And we don't have to have a forever failure with sesquiquadrates, although they do represent that we've gotten pretty far along in what it is that we're doing or trying to get, what it is that we're trying to build, what the goal is. But it's not, you have to look at it in terms of progress. It's not as bad as getting to the in conjunction phase of things. And we're coming into the trine even with Venus and Mars, because Mars is retrograde. Venus is going to be coming up in not too long, couple weeks, to the end point, maybe not even that long. The ending degrees of Pisces, where it will be coming into a trine to Mars, which will represent the next step in our cycle of relationships, collectively and personally. So when we come to that trine phase, everything becomes easy again. Easy harmony. There's no herky jerky. We're not stepping on anybody's toes. We're not coming up short. That's what we do. That's what it is with sesquiquadrates. That's how I need to remember how to. That's the mantra there. We cut corners with semi-squares, and we come up short with sesquiquadrates. Both of them teach us a lesson when it comes to being better prepared and being able to learn on the fly and be observant, and to not be so self-focused or sure of ourselves at that beginning point, that we don't allow for flexibility or input or change before we get to that end point, because there's going to be more that's going to be having to be figured in. So, all right, guys, I've got to teach a class at 2. I will check you out tomorrow. Good to see you.